السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام دكتور.
عليكم السلام، حياك الله دكتور، حياكم الله جميعا.
السلام يا هلا محمد.
سلام، حياك الله دكتور لاي. بس لو نبدا التستنج دكتور لاي. انا
صوتي واضح؟
نعم.
دكتور.
منور يا دكتور، حياك الله.
الله يسلمك بوجودك.
الله يسلمك. من المكتبة.
يس.
طيب، اعمل سكرين شيرنج، ولو تعرض السلايدات كبداية على اساس نشوف ان كل شيء شغال. الإخوة اللي على اليوتيوب الصوت تمام واضح عندكم؟
اي واضح الصوت كويس.
أنا أقصد اللي على اليوتيوب الصوت نتأكد منهم، بس صوت واضح.
Can you see the slides?
Yes, تمام، ممتاز. I can see the slides. فخلاص، أعطينا بس شوية يتجمعوا الشباب.
خير إن شاء الله.
تمام، يعني هنبدأ 7:30 بإذن الله. أيوة، خليك على السلايد هذه على أساس تظهر في اليوتيوب.
خلاص بإذن الله.
أيوة، قفل المايك لين 7:30 ها، عشان لا يطلع الصوت. يلا، حياكم الله يا شباب، هنبدأ 7:30. دكتور لؤي.
هلا محمد، تفضل.
بجرب حركة بس، لو عملتك كو هوست. تمام.
اوكي.
يصير وانا ابغى اقول مثلا one participant can only share. طب اوكي، ما ستيل اون، فكذا افضل يصير على اساس لا احد يغلط ويشيل السلايدات او كذا.
انا عندي ريموت كنترول. This is because I am co-host، صح؟
ايوه انت الان كو هوست، فخلاص فالان مو كل واحد يعني يقدر.
اوكي.
السلام عليكم.
السلام ورحمة الله. We will start at 7:30 إن شاء الله.
إن شاء الله. Is the lecture recorded?
المشكلة لو قلت لك يس هتروح وتسيبنا، وإحنا ما نبغى أحد يروح.
لا ما راح أروح أسيبك، بس إن في شباب ما قدروا إنهم يحضرون
أيوة ريكورد، أيوة ريكوردد، أنا موجودة. لو تدخل على قناتنا على اليوتيوب أنا هحط لكم أصلا اللينك الآن اللايف.
أوكي تمام.
فهي ريكورد على قناتنا.
خلاص، الله يعطيك العافية.
الله يعافيكم. معاذ ما أقدر، ما أنا قادر أعمل لك ميوت، فلو تقفل معاذ الحسين المايك، مايكك مفتوح، فما أنا قادر أعمل لك ميوت، ما أدري ليش.
هل بتكون سلاسل متوفرة بعد المحاضرة ولا لا؟
والله السلايدات هذا الأمر راجع للدكتور لؤي.
ما في مانع لو حابين السلايدات. بس هي المحاضرة ككل حتكون موجودة أيضا فيديو يعني
فما يحتاج السلايدات، خلاص يعني يقدر يشوف صح ولا لا؟ هذا قصدك صح؟
يعني
ما شاء الله تبارك الله، وصلنا 44 والاعداد قاعده تزيد. ممتاز. – 46. ما ادري هنوصل 50 ولا لا. 49.
وصل 50 ان شاء الله، لان
يلا باقي
السيمينار
واحد، باقي واحد وكملنا 50. يا سلام، هذا الرقم الزين، الاعداد بتزيد.
ابو
معليش
محمد
أنا-
المفروض تحط شو اسمه
أيوة.
جائزة لل50 ولا ال100 ولا
ما في بند يا دكتور.
زي اللايكات ولا
ايوه ايوه ايوه. مين هذا؟ طيب هنبدا يا دكتور بعد شويه، ها، فلو تروح للسلايد الاساسيه.
I don't know why I moved بس يس.
يلا اوكي، طب لحظه بس خليها ونص كده تماما. يلا الشباب. خلينا افتح كاميرتي انا عشان اقدمك. طلعت ولا ما طلعت؟ انا طلعت.
We do see you يا محمد.
غريب، انا ماني شايف نفسي ليه.
منور الدنيا يا دكتور يحيى.
الله يسلمك. اهلا، ازيك يا دكتور؟
منور الدنيا كلها.
الله يخليك يا فندم، من ذوقك والله، الله يخليك، شكرا لك. حياك الله يا دكتور. الله يسلمك. كيف اخبارك؟ كيف الاسره؟
بخير دكتور يحيى، كتر خيرك.
الله يسلمك. الحمد لله. طيب we're going to get started. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So welcome everybody to this new series of webinars organized by the Computer Engineering Department, where we are going to have about 6 to 7 webinars this semester to raise awareness about especially the new programs that we are going to launch this semester. Next year in the Computer Engineering Department. Also to increase the awareness of the students about the opportunities that are out there for them, especially in with this new technologies like Internet of Things. Tonight we have with us Dr. Luay Al-Awami. Dr. Luay is an assistant professor in the Department of Computer Engineering. Dr. Luay is leading the effort in the department related to Internet of Things. He made significant contribution in this area. He established a new course in Internet of Things in the department. He's also leading the effort in the design of the new concentration on Internet of Things and the new master program, the MX program, the one-year program in Internet of Things and Embedded System. He's going to talk tonight to us about Internet of Things, application and opportunities for about half an hour. And then we're going, in the second part of the webinar, we will open the floor for questions. And also Dr. Luay, he promised me that he's going to leak some information about the new program. So please stay with us until the second part of the program to learn more of the webinar, to learn more about the new program that we're going to launch next year, inshallah, in the Department of Computer Engineering. Dr. Luay, take it away.
شكرا يا محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I would like to first of all welcome you all to this talk. I'm very excited to be introducing this exciting technology. So thanks for showing up tonight, and I hope that I'll be able to provide you with some informative and interesting presentation, inshallah. So and the talk will be hopefully as general as possible, but at the same time I'll try to shed some light, as Dr. Yahya said, on some of what activities that we are doing in the department as related to IoT. So in my talk, I'll try to introduce what IoT is, and then go over a typical IoT system and the different components or elements that makes it up. And after that, we'll talk about the typical journey of a person who would like to learn about IoT. And I'll share with you some projects, some of which I have worked on in relation to IoT. So I like to start with the following idea. If you notice, many things around us are becoming smart. In fact, we are starting to call certain things smart. So back in the days, we had just TVs. Now suddenly we have a smart TV. We used to have phones, but now we have smartphones. And you can apply this to many things. We have homes, and we're moving towards smart homes. So the word smart must mean something. Like we call something smart because of some attributes or some characteristics that it has. So what makes something smart? Well, the question is, if we think about human, we have so many aspects that we call intelligence or smart. So we human can feel, so we sense or feel the surrounding, or we have senses that provide us with some information about our environment. We can also do things and act to affect this environment. And we can communicate in various forms. So we can speak, we can use many other forms of communication, and we also can think. So we take information and we generate a new kind of information. So of course, human has way more dimensions. We can love, we can dream. There are so many other things that human can do, but these things happen to also be shared at some level with other things around us. So you can have an object, which could be virtually anything, and we can add to it some sensing, and we can also attach to it some controls to allow it to control some other thing. We can make it communicate with some other things, and we can also make it process other information. So things, whether they are ovens, appliances, or cars, or some other kind of things around us, they can still have some of those attributes. Now, of course, with varying degrees. So the Internet of Things is advocating for this, allowing things to be smart. Now, how do we achieve that kind of intelligence or smartness? Well, if you want that thing to be aware of its surrounding, it needs sensors. So we can attach some sensors to any object, make it sense the temperature. It can sense whether there's someone around it. It can have a camera. It can have a GPS. So there are so many ways you can sense your surrounding. You can also make it act or affect the environment. So it can turn something on or off. It can change the heat, the pressure around it. It can move things around. We can also make it communicate by adding some connectivity. And of course, all this needs to be glued together with some computing facility and some software, intelligent software, to control all those aspects together. So one way to look at the Internet of Things is it is about connecting traditionally unconnected things to the internet. So we think of computers or to be, in fact, computers are the first thing that was on the internet mainly. So the internet was built to connect computers. However, no one was at least thinking to connect other things other than computers. So now we can see that more things are becoming connected to the internet, and that's what the Internet of Things is all about. Now, of course, when you make things smart, you can end up with a smart home. So you can control various aspects of the house using intelligent or smart devices. So you can increase safety and security. You can improve the efficiency and convenience, and you can make the house even more enjoyable. You can take this all the way to a scale of a city. So a city can be smart. You can have smart transportation system. You can have smart intelligence system. Even waste management, collection of waste can be also smart by using IoT. And hopefully that's a dream that's going to be one day true. So you can generalize this obviously to anything. You can have smart cars, smart factories, smart farms, and smart grid, and other smart things. So you can see that the scape of the landscape of IoT is very general, and it can be added to almost everything. That's why this technology is very exciting, and hopefully it's going to make a huge improvement to the way we do things. So the big picture is once everything is connected and once everything is smart, the whole planet will be smart. So you can have something, you can think of it as a nervous system for the planet. So you can collect information from different resources. You can predict disasters. You can improve the environment. You can do way more than what we're doing so far or right now. And this is all because we have information, and information allow you to do amazing things. So that's the vision of IoT in a nutshell. But how does an IoT system look like? So I like to start here by just making a comparison between IoT and something we used to do back in the days. In fact, myself, when I was a student, we implemented what we now call an IoT. It looks a bit, ugly and old, but it was honestly to achieve the same objective. So connecting things to the internet is not something new. However, technology was somehow not capable of achieving IoT. So what you see here are devices which are, first of all, bulky, they're big. To program them, you have to have devices in the lab. You have to go to the lab to actually work on them. And communication is very slow. You can maybe send text messages or something like that. The internet itself was slow, and so many other problems with those devices. However, over time, thanks to the research that people do in universities, to computer engineers and scientists around the world, many improvements have been made. And now we have very small embedded devices that can have a huge amount of memory and computing power, and they're so tiny and small, and best of all, they're so cheap. So these allow you to just build any system you want if you customize them and if you know how to work with them. So there are a variety of options. I will also discuss some of these as we go. So using embedded technology is the beginning of building any IoT system. Now, in addition to the improvement in embedded technology, there has been a huge improvement in computing. So we have small devices with power that used to be in mainframes or in huge computers. Now you can have that all in the palm of your hands. There are new prototyping boards which are very easy to deal with, so I don't have to be in a lab to work on them. Like, for example, Arduino or similar systems. We have improved communication technology. The internet is becoming more reliable and faster. And on top of that, we have improvement in artificial intelligence and also in cloud computing. So even if you think this device is tiny and it cannot do everything, well, if you have a huge job, you can just, or you need huge data to store, you can just use the help of the cloud. So the cloud complements those devices to make IoT a reality. So usually IoT systems are not all the same, depending on what you want to include in your system. So I like to divide them or classify them in the following way. So you could simply have a smart device like a prototyping board that controls some device and it can read some sensor information. Now here, there is no connectivity to the internet. We usually refer to such a system as a smart system because it has sensing and actuation or control, but it does not have connectivity. Now, if you have multiple of these, you can even connect them together. So for this, you need some networking. Now, you could connect them locally or allow those devices to communicate together directly. So if you think like at home, you can make your devices like the fridge can speak to the oven through the router, but you can also make the fridge talk to the oven directly. That's another option for communication. So both of these are there. Now, if you want to take this actually one step further, you can connect it all the way to the cloud with internet connectivity. So you can run an application on the cloud that communicates with your devices. You can control your devices remotely through a mobile or some other means. You can use huge resources in the cloud. For example, many of you, for example, know how big a GPS data is. If you try to download GPS data, it is, gigs and gigs of bytes, right? So if you have a small device like this, you cannot store gigabytes in there. So it would be better to keep the GPS data on the cloud, like we do now with Google Maps. They have all the information, and all we need to do is just to request the location or give it the coordinates. It's going to guide you to wherever you want. So the cloud is an important component in IoT, and there are so many other things it can do, in addition to, of course, doing a lot of helping with the AI and the artificial intelligence that's on the cloud. Now, let's take now this to a more technical level. I will go over each of those components and speak about, how it looks, and we'll see what we can do, in the given time. So IoT is usually a multidisciplinary field, meaning you need to get knowledge and experience from various other fields to be able to call yourself an IoT expert. So for example, in our program, our students they need to learn prototyping platform, meaning they work with embedded systems. And for this, they learn programming, they learn circuits and electronics, and they also take embedded systems course. To learn about communication and networks, you take many other courses which also help you with understanding how networks and communication system work. And there is also an Internet of Things course on top of that. We also offer a cloud platform course, which teach you how to use the cloud and how the cloud operates and how to build the cloud and the various services you can get from the cloud. And there are also other courses in data analytics, and there are courses in security. So all these are knowledge that's needed to build IoT systems. So the smart things, as I said, they're usually made up using embedded systems. Now, there are so many kinds of embedded systems around us, and they come in all shapes and forms with different price ranges, with different capabilities, with different connectivity options, depending on what application you're looking to develop. So this is a very nice website that allow you to, in fact, compare between them if you want to get some embedded systems to work with. They even show you which cloud platform they support, which communication modules or technology they support, and even the storage and RAM and other aspects which are important to know before working on IoT. Now, once you have the prototyping boards, you need sensors. So depending on the application you want, you need to collect information or data that's related to your application. So connecting sensors to embedded systems is another skill that an IoT engineer needs. And sensors is a world by itself. So there are so many kinds of sensors and actuators which you can learn about if you're into IoT. Now, once you have your system ready, or the smart system or embedded system connected with the sensors, it's time to connect it to the internet. So connectivity has two aspects. One is, what is your access technology? And by access technology, we mean which technology you're using to send the actual data. Now we're talking about wired or wireless technology, like Bluetooth or Wi-Fi 4 or 5G. There are actually even IoT specific technologies, and these are mainly, they support very low data rate in order to save the battery life. Because remember, for IoT, we're not watching YouTube videos or something like that. All you're sending is small data units. So you don't need a whole, gigabytes of data per second for your application to work. So IoT technologies make a compromise by reducing the data rate to make the battery live longer. And that's important for IoT systems. The other aspect of IoT is the application protocols, meaning how do you want to send your data? When you program the node to send the data, how do you want to do it? You can do it through, again, so many other options. HTTP, which is used to send data for the web, but HTTP has become like a very important protocol which is used for so many other applications, not only for the web. So these are some examples of IoT specific and generic protocols as well. So those are taught in networking courses. Now, for access technologies, there are, again, different technologies. There is what we call licensed and unlicensed. Some you have to pay for to get. For example, if you want to get a 4 or 5G technology, you have to pay for the spectrum. Whoever owns the spectrum, like, for example, the telecommunication companies we have, they buy the spectrum. They are the only ones who use it. There are other technologies where you don't need to buy the spectrum. Anyone can use that frequency range. So for example, in Wi-Fi and others, Bluetooth, and you can see here Zigbee and LoRaWAN, which are other technologies as well, they use unlicensed. So you can just purchase the device and start using it. Of course, technologies also differ by the range. So you can get small range or short range technologies, or long range, depending on your application. Now for the networking protocols, as I said, there are protocols which are specific to IoT, but there are other ones which are generic ones like HTTP, for example. So typically when you build an IoT system, you need at least two programs. One that's running on the smart device and another one that's running on the cloud. So we call the first one a client and the one on the cloud is a server. So you need a client and a server and you need to program both to communicate together. Now the cloud is this fascinating sphere where you have, it opens the door to achieve so many things. So if you have data to be stored, you can push it to the cloud. If you need data from the cloud, for example, if you would like to know what is the weather today, so you can just ask the cloud, you ask a web application mainly that's on the internet to give you the weather prediction or forecast. You can send software updates, you can ask for maps, machine learning, AI tools, they're all available over there. It gives you reliability, meaning the cloud has this built-in characteristic where it does not have one machine. It's actually hundreds or thousands of machines which are running. Even if some of them fail, the other ones are still running. So they give you reliability. They give you agility because you don't have to develop things from scratch. If you want a web server, you just click a button and it's created for you. If any one of you have worked with cloud, they're so easy to use and they can have, a database server or a web server just up and running within seconds instead of going and configuring every piece of it or installing this software or that software. And once you have cloud connectivity, now you can, the smart object or things can communicate with you. They can let you know when somebody breaks into your house, for example. And you can also control the devices remotely if you want to turn something on or off. That's for smart home applications, but there are, again, more applications to it. So now let me showcase some IoT applications that hopefully will get you interested in IoT. So in every semester, we have at least one IoT project in the senior design course that our students take. So I have seen many of those projects that you see in front of you. People build smart homes, smart garage, IoT cloud platform to control devices from the cloud. We're, in fact, as Dr. Yahya said, we are working and hopefully next year we are going to offer a concentration in IoT as well as an MX program, which is a professional master in IoT. And we're also planning to even establish an IoT lab, inshallah, in the department. So this is one example of a project that I personally have worked on. This is very timely because it has to do with COVID-19. So as you know, one of the applications now is to trace people's contacts. So you want to know who met who. So when someone gets infected, we can notify the other person to get tested or maybe quarantine if he is suspected of being infected. So we developed this project. It has two parts. One is health monitoring. So this device here monitors the health of a person. It can detect when somebody coughs. It measures the temperature and also the pulse, so the blood pressure, in other words, and it can determine using artificial intelligence whether the person is okay or not. This other device on the right here, this simulates a bracelet. So this is supposed to send a Bluetooth signal, and devices, when they meet, when someone is close to someone else, the devices will hear each other and they will keep a record of who they met. Of course, this is more than it looks because we also added privacy preservation to it. So there is more to what meets the eye, at least in this slide. We also get calls for research on doing IoT, for example, for pipeline monitoring. As you know, pipelines, oil pipelines, for example, they run hundreds of kilometers in areas where there are no people, and they could be damaged, they could break, they could leak. So there are so many aspects to them that requires testing them very often. If you do this manually, it's very, very labor intensive and costly. So IoT is used to monitor pipelines, and in fact, another similar application is monitoring borders. So as you know, borders between countries, they run thousands of kilometers, and you cannot patrol all these manually again. Also, monitoring the health of industrial equipments. Usually industrial equipments are very expensive, and if they fail, the whole pipeline stops. The whole process or the manufacturing process will stop, and that means losing a lot of money. So using IoT, you can monitor the health of the equipment and predict when it's going to fail before that happens, and then you can just replace the parts or fix it before things get worse. Also, there is a lot of work on Smart Grid 2.0. Now we are in the time of the smart grid, which is a nice addition to the electrical grid, the power grid. As you know, there are a lot of problems where transformers could blow and you have blackouts. So with IoT technology, you can monitor all the aspects and the parts of the grid to know when things are going to, for example, blow before that happens or before they break down. Collecting, for example, readings from meters. So smart meters are smart devices which are connected to the internet. They can send the reading of the utility just to the company without anybody going there and checking manually. So if you like IoT or if you're interested, there are so many ways you can get involved. So of course you can join us in the department, but even if you're not a COE student, you can, if your department fits with the prerequisite of our program, you can join the CX program, which is the concentration on IoT. You can take an MX in IoT. We are also open to doing some senior design projects that use IoT with applications in other areas. So if you're a chemical engineering or mechanical engineering student and would like to do a senior design project that uses IoT, we can always also help with that. We have opportunities for undergraduate research in IoT. So as you know, the university has offered this option for students who would like to do undergraduate research. And one of the topics we research is IoT. And if you have skills in IoT, you can also help us sometimes in research. As you know, getting involved in research is a very valuable skill that many students are now starting to value. So that was it about IoT. I was running fast, but I wanted to keep it as light as possible, and I'll be very happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Lai. That was very interesting indeed. And sometimes I tell myself that I should go back and study this stuff. So I'm going now to kindly ask you to take down the slides so that people can see our full picture when we speak. So before I open the floor for the questions, I would like to go into some details about the new concentration, because now people, I'm sure, they are very excited about this IoT. They see the value of IoT, and really they want to study these things. Now, so I will ask a very direct question. Will the program be ready to be offered next year? Concentration on IoT? Yes. Go ahead, Dr. Lai. You are muted, by the way. Dr. Lai, you are muted.
Yeah, sorry, Doctor, I did not notice this. Yeah, so the program has been completed in development at least. So we are just now going through the paperwork to approve it. Yes, inshallah, it will be ready.
So there is a plan to announce the program and open it for registration maybe towards the end of the semester?
Yes.
Right. One more question and then I'll open the floor. What about the MX, the one-year professional master? Will it be ready by the end of the semester?
Also this one, yes, I can see it because almost we have completed almost most of the work. So yes, in the given time, we should be ready to offer it next semester.
Wow. So next year will be a very busy one for us. Okay. Allah ya'in. So now I'm going to open the floor for questions. Please raise your hand if you want to, if you have a question, or you can go ahead and type your question into the chat box. So we have a question here from Salih Bunayyan. يقول, from your perspective, do you think that the bottleneck in IoT is more towards security or power consumption?
Well, here's this is a very interesting question. There is something to realize is that not all IoT systems and applications are the same. Some IoT systems may have power that's connected. For example, if you think of Sahar cameras, for example, these are already connected to the grid. Smart meter, that's another example I have given there. These ones, they have power available to them all the time. They don't run on batteries. So maybe to those kind of applications, security is more important than power. Now, if you take it to some other kinds of applications, things that are mobile, like the bracelet, it's going to be carried by a person. So we cannot offer power all the time. So it depends on the application. Some will have security as a priority, others will have power as a priority. And talking about this, you also remind me of one important aspect of IoT, which is energy harvesting. This is a very interesting, by the way, aspect. Even EE students, I think, will find this fascinating, is how to find alternative resources for energy. For example, you can use renewables, but some applications are interesting. They take advantage of resources that you don't usually think of. For example, I have seen this project. They are implanting some IoT devices to monitor some jungles in the Amazon. So you know there the forest is very dense and the sun does not penetrate the trees. So instead, what they did is they used the difference in pH level in the soil to, in fact, because if you have different pH, you have basically voltage drop. You have difference in voltage, and that can be used as an energy source. I myself has worked in one project where energy was coming from movement. So we're working on an industrial device that shakes. So shaking can be, in fact, with a piezoelectric device that again shakes. You know, it's just you have a magnet that's moving, you know, with a coil. You know the principles of electromagnetism, I'm sure, how you can generate power. So using piezoelectric device, you can generate power, and that power will be stored in a battery that the IoT device can use to transmit data. So what I wanted to say is energy harvesting is a very interesting aspect of IoT for those who like that part as well.
Okay, so I'm waiting for people to raise their hand or type their question. Otherwise, I'm going to ask you a question related to the market the current market in Saudi Arabia. I am aware of some initiatives in companies like big companies like Aramco and STC. They are some of like they do have some real projects that on IoT that are in production, and some of the companies are still looking for some good use cases for IoT. So when you look at the market here and the job opportunities for IoT, what's your opinion? What do you think? What's going on here in the Saudi market right now?
I think, you know, there is very clear movement towards utilizing.
I'm sorry, Dr. Lai, I have muted you by mistake. I'm sorry, Asif, and I muted you by mistake, Asif.
So, for example, now we have, you know, a huge movement towards smart cities, making the system around us, like whether they're roads or, for example, Neom is an example of a city that's going to be built from the ground up all around smart technology. So this model hopefully will be also generalized to other cities. So this will, in the future, will definitely spend a huge amount, you know, or many projects. Now, as far as companies, well, I am aware that, for example, Aramco, they're looking, and they always, whenever we contact them, they always have projects that require IoT solutions. I am also aware of applications, for example, in Hajj and health, in the health sector, for example. And there are also, as you see, even during pandemics, IoT is indispensable. IoT, I mean, there could be other, hopefully not, but I mean, in certain situations, you need the help of IoT to help.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're saying that although we are only relying on our mobile phone for this contact tracing thing, but this is really a good example of IoT. Do you mean that?
Yeah, well, if you use it, it is an overlap, of course, between mobile and IoT. But if you use IoT, as we have tried to demonstrate in our project, if you want to, because the IoT device can, in fact, sense the, can bring other information. For example, you can sense the temperature, you can sense the pulse, you can even predict if somebody is coughing or something with the movement of the hand, for example. So a wearable device is an example of an IoT system. So IoT can be used as an alternative with, of course, an advantage, as I have explained. I have also, I recall when contacting with Aramco, for example, they have projects now for couldn't finish it because it's confidential. I don't want to talk about the exact problem, but there are problems where they are trying to use, for example, robot to solve, but robots are a bit more difficult to actually work. So IoT could be considered as an alternative. So what I'm saying is IoT can also provide an alternative, and sometimes it has advantage over other solutions.
Okay, so I will just keep asking my questions because nobody wants to. It seems that people are enjoying listening to us, so let's just keep them entertained. We have a comment here from the chairman that say, Dr. Ayman, he says that 81% of businesses in Saudi Arabia already use IoT platform. Do you want to comment on that?
Well, honestly, probably Dr. Ayman knows better. I haven't seen the statistics, but I can definitely see.
Actually, he posted the link for the article in the chat. So
yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Ayman.
Well,
okay. Yeah. Now,
just
go ahead.
To also talk about the experience we have with our students. In fact, just last night, I got an email from a student who told me he is going to have an interview, I think tomorrow, with a company for an IoT position. So he took the IoT course with me, so he was you know, asking for some material. But,
okay.
But I think I have seen some experience before where there are companies I know they're looking for people in IoT.
والله حمستني عارف حمستني speaking of student stories I have some stories to share also بس بعد ما تخلص
اتفضل this is يعني I think yes there is an opportunity.
Yeah, so there is also another company in Riyadh that they hired one of our students because they were starting a new department on IoT. And in the interview, and I think I told you this story, that they invited him to the interview because he mentioned in his CV that he took a course on IoT. And that was the course that he took with you. Yeah. Also, there is another student, one of our students, who's also working in a company that is under STC. Also, he's leading some interesting projects in their IoT unit. And in fact, right now we have one student on co-op who's doing his co-op in the area of IoT with a startup. So the startup market in Saudi Arabia here is growing very fast when we talk about IoT. There are many opportunities. And companies are looking because there's still some of them are exploring the opportunities, the future opportunities in IoT. I have a question related to one of the slides that you showed, where you showed like the different courses that our students take. Now in the concentration, I know that there are 4 courses. I know that your course will be one of the courses in the concentration. What about the other 3 courses? Can you give us like at least if you tell us the titles?
So the concentration will be open to students from the EE department, the system engineering department, the ICS and software engineering, as well as COE. We will have 4 courses, one called Smart Systems, where students will learn about smart systems, objects, sensors and actuators and related topics. The second course will be on IoT. So that one will include the connectivity and networking applications, and as well as technologies for IoT. And there is a third course from the system engineering department on industrial IoT. So that is supposed to show students use cases from the industry on how IoT is used in the industry, and also teach them some protocols and technologies that are specific to the industrial IoT. And the fourth course is called Big Data Analytics, which teaches students how to process a huge amount of data, how to store it, because conventional databases are not capable to process and store big data. So that
course is from the ICS department, right?
From the ICS department. So yeah, we have course from 2 from COE, 1 from system engineering, and a third one from ICS.
Mm-hmm. But what about the new master program? I know that it's about IoT and embedded systems. Is there any reason why you decided to combine these 2 things together into one program?
Well, obviously because they're very related. IoT depends on embedded systems. So embedded systems are those systems that provide what we call perception layer. They provide those senses to the system itself. So, of course, a master program must go deeper into embedded systems and real-time embedded systems, as well as programming them and building a whole software system. So you need an ecosystem, not only one software here or there. So the master program will include course on embedded systems and another course on real-time systems, software engineering for embedded systems, Internet of Things, industrial Internet of Things, and as well as big data analytics, which is similar to the one in the concentration. And the last course is the IoT security.
And it will be available open for what kind of student can enroll in the program?
Well, we have not finalized this point yet, but we will try to make it open to the widest possible audience, inshallah.
Okay. Now the program is 1 year with a project. That it's an MX program. This is a new type of program that are offered by KFUPM, which run for 1 full year. that includes 2 semesters with a summer. It's a full-blown master degree, but it's condensed into one year. Now, I want to take you back to Shabab. If anybody has a question, please raise your hand or type it into the chat. Otherwise, I will just keep talking with Dr. Luai. I want to take you back to the story of the Internet of Things course, the one that you started in the department. So that happened like 3 years ago, or?
Well, yeah, 3 years. We have offered it 3 times. So yes, in 3 years. Well, but I think it has been 4 years now.
4 years. Okay. So any interesting stories about how the student they received the course, especially the first batch?
Well, you know, the course was it was a very interesting journey for me personally, because you know, looking for material for a course, a textbook for the course, and also organizing this theme. You know, when you enter an area, usually you don't necessarily have, you know, a feeling of everything in it. You are, as you know, in PhD, we are very specialized. Usually you work your PhD in a very specialized area because it's PhD. So now the IoT has this nature of being very interdisciplinary. So I feel going into IoT gave me a very good chance to also learn more things from the other areas. So it was a very nice experience in that sense. Now, for the students, I have, in fact, very interesting stories to tell. In fact, this bracelet, smart bracelet idea came from the course. So I had one student who was looking for a project. At that time, COVID was not yet a thing, okay? So his project was, he told me, I want to make this. Yeah, at the time, there was this story of, maybe you've heard of this unfortunate story of a lady who stole a child from the hospital, and he was found 20 years after that. So the story was, you know, just out. So he said, I want to use IoT to make bracelets that you can use, the mom can wear and the infant. So the idea is the two will communicate. If they are out of range, the mom will get a warning, okay? So I said, well, this is a good idea, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then COVID came. He said, well, now I'm thinking to do the opposite. So instead of people, you know, not separated, we don't want people to come close.
Yes.
So that was a very interesting, you know, twist to the project. And subhanAllah, at the time, the university was offering, as you know, grants on proof of concepts for COVID-related projects. And we said, well, this is a good project. And they gave us funds to develop the prototype. So I think that the course was really interesting, and I have experienced some good times just as this one.
Good, good. But we have Uthman al-Sheikh. Uthman, go ahead. Ask your question, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
My question is about يعني the infrastructure for smart cities. It's easy to build the infrastructure for a smart city if the city is yet not built, but for يعني مثل نيوم.
Yes.
But for يعني big cities who يعني مثل الرياض وجدة يعني how can we improve the infrastructure to accommodate the new technologies?
Okay, that's a good question. Thank you, Uthman.
Yeah. Jazakallah khair, Uthman. Yes, there is in fact, of course, there are certain aspects that has to do with urban planning, which I am not an expert of. However, as far as technology goes, as you said, there are challenges, but luckily there are also opportunities. For example, if you, let me give you an example. Before the cellular service, you know, the wireless service, it was very difficult to bring the internet to remote areas, even some, like poor countries or countries which have very poor economies. It was very difficult to come and dig the ground to, lay all the infrastructure required. With wireless technology, it became so easy. You can even provide the internet nowadays through satellites. So if I take this same example, I think because IoT mainly relies on wireless technology, there is using wireless will ease this challenge. Now that's one aspect. The other aspect is one of the things we always talk about in IoT is how do you interface a system which is old? It was not built to be connected to the internet. There are options to connect it to the internet. So that way you can keep the waste to the minimum. We call these legacy systems, and there are ways to just interface them to the internet without replacing the whole thing. So there are definitely challenges, but there are also some solutions as the ones I mentioned. And if you look around, honestly, you can see that IoT is becoming, you see it at least deploy in so many aspects. One of them is now traffic. We have smart intersections, we have with cameras, we have speed cameras. So these are all IoT systems. And now with my last comment is, with the invention or the deployment of 5G, the challenge has even been eased out much more, because 5G was built with IoT in mind. So 5G offers what is called machine-to-machine communication, which allows devices to communicate and help each other to reach the base station instead of talking to the base station directly. There are also some services in the 5G to support thousands of devices by one base station. That's one of the challenges, by the way, of IoT, is how do you make one base station support thousands of devices? Now, you all realize if you're at home, when you have the extended family home, the Wi-Fi router will just break, right? There is probably 20 or 30 people around you. So imagine you have thousands of IoT devices and you want them all to share the same access point. So there are, in fact, improvement on this front, and 5G has made a huge improvement to this as well.
Okay, Shabab, there you have it. The news is officially out. The chairman, Dr. Ayman Al-Malih, has just posted 2 messages saying that IoT concentration will be open to COE, ICS, software engineering, electrical engineering. I'm reading the message from the chat, system engineering and electrical engineering. There is one prerequisite may be needed for some majors. And both IoT CX concentration and IoT and embedded system master, professional master will be offered starting from next academic year. So it's official. The computer engineering department is going to offer 2 new programs next year. One at the bachelor level, it's a concentration. And the other one is a professional master at the master level. Dr. Lai, can you please comment on this prerequisite for some majors?
Yeah, because, well, the IoT requires knowledge in networking. So for system engineering as well as EE students, they are required to take a networking course. Now the options, as far as we could manage, is the COE 344, which is our networking course.
واو يعني خير وبركه، يعني يتعلم نتوركينج ويدخل السوق متجهز نتوركينج وكمان فوق البيعه ياخذ اي او تي. ايش العروض الحلوه هذه؟ لا وبعدين انت عارف لا والله يا اخي هذا كلام، يعني انت عارف 344 بياخذوا معاه اللاب، يعني بياخذ كورس كامل في النتوركينج، صح؟
Yeah. So, in fact, as you know, networking opens the door for you not only for IoT. You can also take cybersecurity.
لا انت عارف، فيقدروا كمان يعملوا السيسكو certification. اذا اخذ 344 he qualify automatically to go into the Cisco certification, because we in the computer engineering department we do offer the Cisco certification.
Yes.
تمام. والله هذه عروض، والله عروض هذه مرة حلوة صراحة، تخلي الواحد يتمنى إنه يرجع يدرس الأشياء دي.
And for the students coming from ICS as well as software engineering, they can take they need, of course, knowledge in circuits and electronics. So we have a course now which combines both. As you know, it's EE 236, which is both circuits and electronics in one. The prerequisite for the course is physics 102, which is taken by everybody.
So this course will be also a prerequisite for some student. You mean?
For the ICS and software engineering, the electronics and circuits, yes.
So what's the name of what's the code of the course? Because I want to type it into the chat.
It's EE 236.
Okay, Shabab, if you are an ICS and software engineering and you want to do a concentration in IoT, you will have to take this course as a prerequisite. Now, some people, they say that, okay, do I have to take really this course, or the entry course, the introductory course will be enough that we have in the concentration?
Well, electronics is required, not circuits. So do you mean the course for
the 236?
Yeah, needed for which course? You mean the first course in the concentration?
Yes, for the concentration for ICS and software engineering. This is like, they have to take it, right?
Yes. Because
so there is no workaround. They have to take it.
No, because the smart system course goes into sensors. So most sensors are electronic circuits. So they need to have knowledge about, electronics to be able to understand sensing. There is another component of the course, which is energy harvesting. And for energy harvesting and low power systems, they also need to have background in electronics to understand the material. So,
will they be allowed to take the course as a core requisite? Because usually, Shabab, this is very important. Usually, we assume that they take the course in the last semester of the junior year so that they start the concentration in the senior year. Are you going to allow them to take this prerequisite as a core requisite, like in the first semester of the senior year?
Well, honestly, I never thought of that.
We have the chairman with us. Dr. Ayman, can you say something on the chat? Are you going to allow the student to take it as a core requisite? Okay, so they have to be prerequisites. Okay, طيب. We have a question here from Ja'far Muhammad. يقول لك Ja'far, is there any course that you recommend outside the university? I would say that first you should take the course that Dr. Luay is offering right now, the senior year course that you are offering. What is the prerequisite for that? Is it open for non-CUE student?
No, this one will become part of the concentration, so it's going to need the networks, the computer networks.
Okay. But do you recommend any courses outside the department, for example, online or somewhere else?
Online, there are many courses. There are very simple ones. They're not really academic. Like Cisco, for example, have an introduction to IoT. Cisco, if for those who don't know, Cisco is one of the main companies that manufacture networking equipment. And they have an academy, the one that Dr. Yahya mentioned, which is the certification we offer in the COE, which is called CCNA, which is certification for networks. Now, Cisco has their website is really rich. They have tools for networking as well as IoT. They offer some free courses that you can go, and they even give you some tools to simulate the IoT systems, which are really nice to use. I personally use some of their tools in my courses. So that would be a good place to visit. Now, there are other, I know there are other programs which are paid, master online programs, for example. I don't recall, honestly, the universities, but I think the University of New Mexico, University of Florida, I believe, they have some programs which are online. and they're paid, so they're not for free. I mean,
Okay.
but I don't recall all the details about them. So that's another option. Some people.
Okay. I have one more question. The senior level students who are going to graduate by the end of this semester, they are saying that, well, we're going to miss the concentration, but I know that we told them that they can take the MX. So the question here is there any difference, significant difference between the concentration and the MX? Are they going to miss anything by not taking this, the concentration when they do the MX?
No, in fact, the MX is more expanded. So the MX will make sure you cover what you cover in the CX plus other things.
So the CX is a subset of the MX. So
Yes.
They're not going to miss any. Oh, that's great. That's great. Because I can recognize some of the names here in the list of participants.
Also, remember the CX, the MX will also have a project, which is a 2 semesters project. So the student will have to learn a lot to build up an IoT project compared to, let's say, just a course project in the CX.
Okay, let's take 1 minute to breathe because we are so excited, and we give like the last chance for people to ask questions. If you have any question, raise your hand or type it into the chat. Maybe Dr. Ayman, do you want to say something, Dr. Ayman?
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu rahmatullah.
I would like to thank Dr. Lai for this excellent presentation. Thank the attendees.
Well,
I think we have done a survey among junior students, and we got a lot of interest of students who want to start the CX program next semester. So I think inshallah things will be ready, and it seems like an exciting and interesting program. LMX is going to include both IoT and embedded systems, and as Dr. Lai said, it will cover more broader spectrum, and it will have, for example, a course in IoT security in addition to the project, and embedded real-time systems. So it covers also embedded system aspects, and it's more in depth.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ayman. Okay, Dr. Luay, I know you are tired, especially after a long day of teaching. In fact, you were teaching just before the webinar. So Allah yatik al-afiyah. We really enjoyed the talk, and we enjoyed talking with you about IoTs. And we really look forward to the future and the programs that will be offered next year.
Well, thank you for the arrangement and the effort. It was very smooth and as always, Taban. There's one question about the registration. Well, for all the programs, students will be allowed to register for concentrations before the end of the semester. And those who match the requirements of they will be given, I think, as last year, they will be given options, so they can put option 1, option 2, or choices. And according to the availability, as well as whoever matches the requirement, will be chosen for that concentration.
And one more thing is mentioned here by Dr. Ayman. Even if you take the CX, you can still take the MX because, again, the CX is just a subset. And we do have a strategy for those who feel like some of the courses, maybe they have seen some of the material. We do have like a strategy to accommodate those people. Type. We have a quick question from Adil Muhammad. Adil, go ahead, please. Very quickly.
Can I do the MX without taking the CX?
Yes, you can. If you allow me, Dr. Lai, yes, you can take the MX without the CX is not a prerequisite for the MX. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Luay. Thank you, everybody. And by the way, we're going to have a webinar almost every week. Next week, we're going to have a webinar on RFID with Dr. Wasim Raad. So please make sure that we will send the announcement at the beginning of the week. So please make sure that you don't miss that webinar. And I want, on behalf of the chairman of the Computer Engineering Department and all the faculty members, I want to thank you for being with us tonight. And I hope you have benefited from this, and I hope that this webinar will help you to make your decision about which concentration you're going to take in the senior year. Thank you, Dr. Lai, again. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you, inshallah, again next week on Wednesday at 7:30. Assalamu alaikum.